Imagine a dark editing room. At its center is an enormous screen, and on that screen is the timeline of your entire life, your first day of school, an afternoon that seemed ordinary, but that you never forgot, one person who arrived, another who left, the call you answered, the call you let ring. There are scenes you would watch again without thinking twice, and there is at least one you avoid even when you are alone. In front of you is a button. It can erase a single scene. Only one. But there is a rule. No one will show you what your life would have been like without it. You will not see the other version before you choose. You will not know who would still be by your side, which paths would have opened, which parts of you would be different. Even so, the button is there. Which scene would you erase? When an editor cuts a scene, the day of filming does not change. The editor does not return to the set. The editor does not ask the actor to say something else. The editor simply decides that this piece will not appear in the film. With life, even that is not so simple. You can put the photographs away in a box. You can stop visiting a place. You can avoid a conversation for many years. You can tell the story as though that part did not matter. But the fact remains. It has already become part of the material of your life. It is natural to imagine another version. If I had not said yes, if I had arrived 5 minutes earlier, if that person had never appeared, maybe the other life would have been better. Maybe it would have been worse. The truth is that no one received the footage of that other life. To say that everything good would have disappeared with it is to invent a certainty. To say that everything would have been perfect is to do the same. We know only this timeline. So the question changes. It is no longer, how do I return to the day of filming? It is, what do I do with a scene that cannot be filmed again? There is more than one way to live with what happened. The first is to acknowledge it, to stop saying the file does not exist. This happened. I wish it had been different. But denying it does not change the fact. The second is to endure it. The scene is still heavy. It may still hurt, but you can live despite it. You can keep going without pretending that you liked it, and that alone may require enormous strength. The third possibility is much stranger, not merely to acknowledge, not merely to endure, but to love. To love, not because the scene brought a reward later, not because the loss created an opportunity, not because the pain produced a lesson. If you accept what happened only because of the good thing that came later, perhaps you love that good thing, not what happened. To love, in the most extreme sense, would be to want no other edit in place of this life. It is such a great demand that it may seem inhuman, and this is precisely the demand Nietzsche called Amor Fati. In Latin, love of fate. In 1882, Nietzsche opened a section of the Gay Science as if he were writing a New Year's resolution. He wrote, "I want to learn more and more to see as beautiful what is necessary in things, so that I will become one of those who make things beautiful. Amor Fati. From now on, let this be my love. Someday, I want to be only someone who says, yes." There are 3 important expressions in this passage. I want, to learn, and someday. Nietzsche does not write, I already love everything that has happened to me. He does not present a finished achievement. Still less does he order everyone to do the same immediately. He speaks of a desire, of a direction, of something he still needs to learn. 6 years later, his language becomes even more demanding. In Exe Homo, he calls Amor Fati his formula for greatness, to want nothing to be different, not backward, not forward, not for all eternity, not merely to endure what is necessary, still less to hide it, but to love it. The voice now sounds more confident, but saying that you lived up to your own ideal is not the same as proving it. In Nietzsche's writings, Amor Fati appears at times as what he wants to learn, and at other times as what he claims to be his innermost nature. This tension does not weaken the idea. It reveals the scale of the challenge. Perhaps not even the person who created the formula can offer a simple proof that he reached its end. When we look back, events seem to form a story. A job loss led to a move. The move led to a meeting. The meeting led to a decision, and the decision brought you here. It is tempting to look at this sequence and conclude, then everything had to happen exactly this way. Or even, someone wrote this for my own good. But an edit can acquire meaning afterward without having been planned beforehand. Nietzsche distrusted the idea of a universe organized around our needs. Nietzsche gives this impression a name: personal providence. It is as though an invisible force arranged everything with you in mind. Once the facts fit together, it seems that an invisible intelligence placed every piece where it belonged. But creating meaning does not prove that there was a plan. You can work with what happened. You can give form to the experience. You can decide how it enters the whole story. None of this proves that someone caused the loss in order to teach you a lesson. In the editing room of your life, there is an editor in the present, but the screenwriter's chair for the universe is empty. Amor Fati does not mean that everything happened for the best. It means facing a life that already contains what happened, without needing to imagine a benevolent author behind the pain. So far, the image of editing seems to work. We can speak of giving form, changing the framing, looking from another distance. But there are scenes before which this language begins to fail. A serious illness, a deliberate injustice, abuse, a loss that nothing can make up for. Applying a beautiful filter does not turn cruelty into goodness. Adding emotional music does not make the harm disappear. And fitting the event into a larger story does not prove that it should have happened. Here lies one of the hardest problems of Amor Fati. Is the love directed toward each event in isolation, or toward the whole life, which contains different events? Some answer that it is possible to love the whole without saying that every part was good. But this answer does not settle the problem, because the whole still contains the parts. Perhaps there is another position. A person can say that life is worth living and, at the same time, grieve a real harm. A person can say yes to their own life and still say, this was unjust. This should not have happened. Nietzsche chooses an extreme formula, but he does not prove that mixed feelings are weakness, and his formula should not be turned into a duty for those who have suffered. Amor Fati is not a substitute for grief. It is not a substitute for justice. It is not a substitute for protection, medical treatment, or therapy. Telling a victim to love what happened may not be wisdom. It may be one more act of violence. The scene remains on the timeline, but no one has the right to force another person to call it beautiful. If the past cannot be changed, does that mean the only thing left is to stand still? No. The recorded section is closed. The line marking the present keeps moving forward. Accepting that an injustice happened does not mean allowing it to continue. Acknowledging a wound does not prevent you from seeking treatment. Making a loss. part of your story does not require abandoning memory, the pursuit of justice, or care. Stopping the fight against what cannot be undone may free your strength to act on what is still open. If we bring Amor Fati into contemporary life responsibly, perhaps we can imagine 4 movements. First, reality. Look at the material without rewriting the fact. Second, grief and evaluation. Call a loss a loss. Call an injustice an injustice. No sugarcoating. Third, fit it into your own story. Ask how it enters the whole story of a life without saying it was sent to teach something. Fourth, action. Decide what can still be created, protected, repaired, or transformed. Nietzsche did not write this list. It is a contemporary way of using the idea, an attempt to preserve the idea's strength without telling a person to stand still or pretend that everything is fine. The fact that the past is closed does not mean the future is closed too. On the timeline, what lies behind us no longer obeys our will, but the next section has not finished taking shape. Now imagine that the button in front of you changes shape. It is no longer there to erase. It is there to repeat. In another passage of The Gay Science, Nietzsche presents one of philosophy's most unsettling thought experiments. A demon appears in your loneliest loneliness and announces, "This life, exactly as you have lived it, will have to be lived once again, and then once more, and once more after that. Countless times. Nothing will be added, nothing will be corrected. Every pain, every pleasure, every thought, the same spider, the same moonlight between the trees, this moment, and the demon himself delivering the news again. How would you react? Would you grind your teeth and curse the one who spoke? Or have you already lived in such a way that you could call that message divine? We do not need to prove that. The universe actually repeats to feel the weight of the question. As a test, it already works. At the beginning of this video, you had to choose one scene to erase. Now the proposal is to repeat the entire timeline without removing a single second. This is why eternal recurrence can function as the most extreme test of Amor Fati. But the two concepts are not the same. Eternal recurrence is the test. Amor Fati is the attitude pushed to its limit by that test. Nietzsche's ideal response would be a yes without cuts. Whether a human being can give that response remains an open question. Perhaps you cannot say yes. Perhaps you still want to erase one part. Perhaps, for now, all you can do is endure. That does not make you weak. An order can command a person to remain silent. It cannot force that person to love. In the same book in which he wrote about Amor Fati, Nietzsche compares learning to love with learning a strange piece of music. At first, we can barely make out the melody. Then we need patience to listen to what still sounds strange. Over time, we recognize its movements. We become familiar with it. And perhaps, one day, we begin to miss it. Nietzsche does not present this passage as a direct definition of Amor Fati, but it helps us understand the verb he chose. To learn. Love does not appear because someone triggered a command. It is not born from a motivational phrase. It does not obey a deadline. If Amor Fati is possible, perhaps it looks less like a heroic decision made in a single second and more like a long practice of attention. This does not guarantee that every scene will become lovable. It does not guarantee that everyone can or should reach the extreme Nietzsche imagined. It means only that our relationship with the past does not have to remain frozen forever. Now you are back at the beginning. The dark room, the screen, your entire life laid out before you. The erase button is still there. This video will not press it for you. Perhaps you would still erase the scene. Perhaps today you can look at it for only a few seconds. Nietzsche does not offer a trick to prevent that. He offers a harder question. Does your yes to life depend on life having been different? Amor Fati does not say the wound deserved to happen. It does not say the suffering was good. It does not say that someone wrote it for you. It is the attempt not to demand another past, another world, or another life in order to say yes to this life. Not as a finished achievement, as a desire, as a process of learning, as an ideal so extreme that perhaps no one can prove they have fully realized it. The past does not return to the set. The timeline will not be replaced by a secret version, but after the final section, the line marking the present is still glowing, and the part that can still be lived has not finished taking shape.